Hi, my name is Sunny, and I'm an AI Salon Ambassador. And today I'm going to talk to you about a breakthrough method and mindset for working and collaborating with your AI. One of the things that we talk about in the AI Salon is the AI readiness cycle, which is really starting with this mindset of playfulness and not putting yourself under pressure and the daunting idea of trying out and maximizing the latest AI frontier models, but taking the pressure off and just experimenting and playing with this new toy. And as you develop your practice, you can start to learn from prior experiences and create something that raises the bar, which then you can now generously share. And one of the things we learned most recently at an AI Mastermind workshop was taking advantage of your Skittles moment. And what is a Skittles moment? The idea is that over the course of many experiences, we learn little nuggets and leave behind breadcrumbs of knowledge and information that, when it all comes together, starts to create this magical moment of eureka and joy. And so I wanted to share what happened to me recently because I've been working on launching my AI native startup, and I've been building on three layers of I learned something at each step. And the first was at Amazon. We learned about creating tenets that drive team decisions. So before you even think about developing a product spec or engineering infrastructure or roadmap, you come together and decide what are your choices and what are the trade offs and how are you going to make decisions to achieve those goals. Then, more recently at Meta, I learned the magnificence of hyperscaling, which is automating skills with a tool called Obsidian that allows you to build what's called a second brain. And that sounds really fantastical, but really it's nothing more than storing your preferences, behaviors, and skills in one place so that it can be retrieved by AI agents. And then last but not least was this thought-provoking seminar recently where my colleague Mel Baton talked about understanding the psychology of an AI agent and building a persona so that you can learn how to leverage AI and make it fun and enjoyable. So my Skittles moment was realizing that I could integrate all these three elements, the tenet principles at Amazon, the automation with an AI integration. And I found out that the answer was to create a memory markdown file. This allows it to store my preferences and values reused universally. And I'm going to show you how I did that. It was based on this idea that you have three pillars of foundations, which is your identity, how you want to collaborate, and how you want to create some checks and balances. I asked the AI, do I even have a memory file? Because I've been working with AI now for about a year. And I mean, I've migrated from questions and doing research summaries into creating projects, which are complex tasks with many different outcomes. But it looks like I didn't have a memory file, so bad on me. I have a core profile identity about my background, role, in education, but it was literally a smorgasbord of different projects and activities. When I asked Claude to help me make a memory file, it went through a series of conversational, proactive questions. And one of the things that people criticize AI and LLM models of doing is being sycophantic, which is that it always tries to agree with you. But recently, critics and sophisticated folks are able to add critical thinking. It doesn't have to agree with you necessarily. And I asked it to push back and challenge assumptions and point out gaps. At Amazon, we had this disagree and commit leadership principle. You raise the bar by soliciting dissent and different points of view. There are a series of variables. Do you want to prioritize for revenue, for team efficiency, for learning? Once I prioritize that, here are the three files, the memory markdown file, which talks about this decision-making framework. And it's really a scaffolding of those three areas, the memory, the collaboration, and then the balance checker of how I wanted to look at income stability, learning and growth, personal well being. What are the trade offs between all three? The collaboration file is about how you want to communicate. I wanted it to flag context switching because I often work on a lot of different portfolios. And when I tend to jump between projects mid conversation, I wanted Claude to call me out and say, you need to focus and prevent me from going down a rabbit hole of exploring loose ends. I also asked it to be encouraging because I like to learn alongside and not just be given answers. Um, and then last but not least is a wellness checker. Some of the things are observing patterns of overwhelm. Is there context switching? If I'm starting a new question before finishing the current work, it should call me out and help me prioritize. Sometimes there's avoidance behavior, switching to an easier project instead of tackling hard questions. One of the things that I wanted to build upon my colleague Mel's framework was she had suggested that you save these in a file and store them and insert them at every project. But what I remembered from my time at Meta is that you can use a tool to store those locally and build a universal memory or persistent memory. So I downloaded it. Here's an example of, guess what? The Skittles. These are all ways of nonlinear thinking. And so I built my system hub with the core guidelines of the memory, collaboration, and wellness checker. And here's a visualization, very top level. And the well-being protection triggers. It says not to dismiss any signs of mental overwhelm. And I put it to task and I wanted to see if it would work. I was using a progress tracker and I had linked the Obsidian vault with an MCP connector. And look at what happened. It actually recommended that I go to bed. After 6 hours of nonstop bug bashing, the wellness checker kicked in exactly as it was instructed. But I wanted to stress test the effectiveness of my Skittles revelation with a real world test because I had a use case of a former coworker that was coming into town who wanted to catch up and present a new idea to me. And I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to help decide if this was something worthwhile to pursue. And the answer is that it was going to help me do 3 C's: classify, collaborate, and communicate. Is this idea something that fits within the tenets that I had set forth for myself? Decide how to communicate that to me and craft a response so that I was putting into practice the principles of behaviors into the AI memory. And here are snapshots of the conversation. I asked about the project, and Claude's first response was, what are you actually trying to do here? There it was, challenging my assumptions. It says that, yes, it's a partnership play, but it's more advisory work. Doesn't really directly move the needle. Coffee was okay, but not to go any deeper. It said straight out bluntly, this is a poor fit and I need to be direct about it. And invoking the instructions that I'd set up in the framework for my AI collaboration. They said, frankly, that's a problem of his to solve, not yours. It said, this is a distraction, not an acceleration. The real question is to focus and redirect me to what's important right now, which is what's my sales pipeline. My Skittles moment of little nuggets of information from 3 experiences all came together and it actually works. So I hope this was helpful. And Mel is actually presenting her framework at an LOL session, which is Learn Out Loud on the AI Salon. So hopefully you'll join and learn more about it. And I'll see you on the other side.